She texted me the address like it was just another Friday. No, can't wait to see you, no heart emoji, no spark. Just an address and party starts at 8. I stared at it longer than I should have, like my brain was trying to pick up on something my eyes couldn't see. It didn't feel like an invitation. It felt like a test I didn't know I was taking. Her office was on the 27th floor of some glass sandsteel tower downtown. Too clean. Too bright. I took the elevator up alone, watching my own reflection in the stainless steel doors as they closed. I didn't like the man looking back. I got there late on purpose. She hated that, but I needed to see how she acted when she thought I wasn't looking. I figured I'd catch her off guard, maybe see her light up when she saw me. Instead, I walked in and felt like I had walked into someone else's life entirely. The room buzzed with fake charm and the cling of champagne glasses. People mingled like this was the most important night of their year, all small talk and big egos. She was across the room, already in her element, laughing, leaning in too close to people she said she barely knew, sipping something clear in a fancy glass. She looked like she belonged. I looked like the plus one nobody asked for. I stayed near the door for a moment, watching. She didn't notice me. Or maybe she did and chose not to. I saw her approach a group standing near the open bar. One of them, tall, broad shoulders, that cocky, I run this place smirk, lit up when she joined them. She tilted her head, whispered something in his ear, and they both laughed a little too long. Something clicked, but I shoved it down. I told myself I was overthinking. I'd promised myself I wouldn't ruin the night by being suspicious. I'd been walking on that rope for months. Then she saw me. And the look on her face wasn't surprise. It was irritation. Like I'd shown up somewhere I wasn't supposed to be. She walked over with a tight smile and said, "Hey, you made it." Before I could respond, she turned to the guy in the velvet blazer and said, "This is my roommate." My what? I waited for the joke, the punchline, the awkward laugh that would turn this moment into something harmless. It didn't come. The man barely nodded at me before turning away like I wasn't worth remembering. And that's when she leaned in, not to me but to him, and said, just low enough for me to catch it, "My real boyfriend couldn't come. He hates these things." My stomach twisted. I don't even know how I moved away from them, but I ended up in the hallway, just past the coat check. My hands shook, not with rage. Not yet, but with something slower, heavier, like the kind of anger that doesn't explode, but simmers until it poisons everything it touches. I called Nate, my oldest friend, the one person who would give it to me straight. He picked up on the second ring. "Tell me it's not happening," I said. My voice was steady, which scared me more than if I'd been yelling. He was silent for a beat. Then, "What did you see?" She called me her roommate, then told some guy her real boyfriend couldn't make it. Another pause. Check her phone. Now, I mean it. I didn't ask why. I didn't ask how he knew. I just turned around and walked back in like I'd forgotten something. She was still talking to velvet blazer guy, her laugh a little too polished now. Her drink was almost empty. Her phone was in her bag, on the chair beside her. I didn't ask. I didn't say a word. I walked up, grabbed the phone, unlocked it. She still hadn't changed the passcode, and held it in front of her as the screen lit up with new notifications. A dozen messages. Same name, different emojis. The latest one said, "Still thinking about this morning. Can't wait for you to sneak over again tonight." She froze, right there in the middle of her party in front of her coworkers. Everything about her dropped, the smile, the charm, the fake laugh. She went stone cold like someone pulled the plug on her entire act. And I just stood there, holding her phone, watching her drown in it. The guy next to her blinked, looked from her to me, and stepped back. He wasn't stupid. He knew what was happening. Everyone did. She reached for the phone. I didn't let go. And that's when the real unraveling began. She followed me out into the hallway like it was her house I just embarrassed her in. Her heels clicked fast behind me, and the second the door closed, she switched tones like flipping a light. "Are you serious right now?" I turned. She was already glaring, arms folded like she was the one who caught me doing something wrong. "You're asking me that?" I held up her phone. "Want me to read it out loud? Make sure I understood the emojis correctly?" She lunged for it. I pulled it back. "No," she said sharply. "Give it back." That's private. Private? I stepped toward her, lowering my voice. You called me your roommate, in front of everyone, then told your boss your real boyfriend couldn't come. And now you're mad because I saw something private. She looked away, then back, her eyes darting like she was searching for a version of this where she wasn't the villain. I panicked, she said, shrugging. I didn't know what to call you. It was just easier. You panicked into a lie that detailed? I took another step forward. You didn't forget my name. You erased me. Her face twisted into that expression I used to only see when she dealt with bad customer service. Calculated irritation. Like I was a problem, not a person. A malfunction in her evening. This isn't the time, she said, lowering her voice and glancing at the door. We're at my office party. You're making a scene. No, I said louder than I should have. You made a scene the second you decided to bring two different lives into one room and hope they never noticed each other. She rolled her eyes, and something about that sent a burn through my chest I can't explain. It wasn't just dismissive, it was bored. Like this confrontation was a waste of her energy. Then she said it. I'll never forget how flat her tone was. Okay, fine. You saw it. Yes, I've been seeing someone. It's not like I planned for you to find out like this. Oh, that makes it better. Don't be dramatic, she snapped. It's not that deep. Not that deep. That's when I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was either that or lose control entirely. Do you hear yourself? I've been sleeping next to you for a year while you were sneaking off to someone else, and your defense is it's not that deep. I didn't say it was nothing. You said I was your roommate, and then you told him you had a real boyfriend. So what am I exactly? Your cover story? Your fallback. She sighed like this whole situation was annoying for her. Then she leaned against the wall like she was tired of pretending. Look, I didn't cheat because of you. You didn't do anything. I got bored, okay? I needed something different. You don't challenge me anymore. You've gotten too predictable. There it was. The core of it. And she said it like she was ordering a coffee, calm, indifferent, with a pinch of cruelty just to make sure it landed. I felt something collapse in me. Not anger that had been burning for months. This was something else. A quiet, heavy click inside my chest that said this marriage was over a long time ago. I just didn't know it yet. I didn't say anything. I looked at her. I mean really looked at her, this woman I built a life around, trusted with everything, defended when people warned me she was slippery with the truth. And all I could think was, how long has she been looking at me like I was a mistake she never had the nerve to erase? She reached out then, maybe to take the phone, maybe to say something that would glue this all back together, but I was already turning away. I walked to the elevator without a word. The last thing I heard before the doors shut was her voice behind me, cold, sharp, tired. Well, if you're walking away, don't come back crying later. And then the doors closed. I stood alone in that mirrored box, staring at myself again. Only this time I recognized the man looking back. And he was done. The next morning was quiet in the way a bomb site is quiet after the smoke settles. I woke up on Nate's couch, shoes still on, coat twisted around me like I'd wrestled sleep and lost. The TV was still glowing faintly, some late-night show frozen on a paused frame, and my phone buzzed on the coffee table, screen lighting up with her name. I didn't answer. There were 5 missed calls before I'd even opened my eyes, and more after that. All from her. No texts, though. She wasn't the type to leave evidence in writing. That part had always been calculated. Even her lies had structure. Nate walked in with coffee and didn't say anything. He didn't need to. He saw it all on my face. You want to talk? He asked. No, you want a drink at 8 a.m.? I looked up. Little bit. He chuckled, handed me the coffee anyway, and sat down. Did she say anything last night? After you left? Only that I was making a scene. And that I bored her. Apparently, I'm too predictable. Nate didn't flinch, just nodded slowly like he'd heard it before. That stung. She ever say that to you? I asked. Not in those exact words, he said carefully. But she always had a way of talking like she was the smartest person in the room. Like everyone else was just catching up. I stared at the ceiling. 12 years. She couldn't even call me her husband. Nate leaned forward. So what now? And that was the question, wasn't it? What now? What do you do when the floor you've been standing on turns out to be a rug someone yanked out from under you? I didn't have an answer. Around noon, I finally checked her messages. The last one she sent hours after the party was a voice memo. I almost didn't listen. But I did. Her voice was flat, no apology, just a tired, annoyed tone. You didn't have to do that in front of everyone. That was humiliating. I was going to tell you eventually. But now you've made this into a disaster. I need you to be mature about this. Mature about this. Like her betrayal was a scheduling conflict. Like I just overreacted to a missed dinner reservation. I stared at the message until my phone locked itself again. And that's when it hit me, she wasn't sorry. Not even close. She wasn't trying to fix it or explain it or even lie her way out. She was mad that I found out before she could control the narrative. That was the real crack in the glass. Not the cheating, not the lies, not even the roommate line. It was the contempt. The absolute absence of shame. I stood up, tossed the coffee aside, and walked to Nate's desk. Opened his laptop. Started typing. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Printing bank statements. House title. Anything with both our names on it." He nodded, not needing to ask more. For the next hour, I collected everything. Every thread that tied us together. Joint accounts, bills, passwords, insurance. I made a list, column A, things I needed to separate. Column B, things I wanted back. And then I remembered something. Something small. Something I hadn't thought about in months. The storage unit. 6 months ago, she insisted we rent one. To declutter, she'd said. We're not using the guest room anyway. She took the keys, handled the rental, packed the boxes herself. I hadn't been there once. Now, suddenly, it was lit up in my mind like a blinking sign. I turned to Nate. "You busy?" He looked at me, then at the folder of paperwork, then back. "Let me grab my keys." We drove in silence. The unit was 15 minutes away, behind a nondescript gate in an industrial part of town. When we got there, I used the spare key she forgot I had. It clicked open like it was waiting. What I found inside was not boxes. It was a mattress, a mini fridge, wine bottles, a nightstand with her name scrawled on a post-it note, a second phone charger, a toothbrush, a blanket I didn't recognize. Nate said nothing, just stood behind me as I looked around at what she built, a second life, in a space we were supposed to be using for storage. She hadn't just cheated. She'd relocated pieces of herself. Like she was rehearsing for a life after me. And here's the twist, the part that kicked the air right out of my chest. On the floor, tucked under the mattress, was a framed photo of us. The same one that used to sit on her desk. Why take it out of our house, just to keep it here? That's when I understood. She wasn't preparing to leave me. She already had. And everything else? Was just cleanup. We drove back in silence, but it wasn't the same silence as before. That one had been heavy, uncertain, filled with the echoes of everything I didn't know yet. This one was sharp. Final. I wasn't wondering anymore, I was just calculating. We got back to Nate's place, and I sat down at the kitchen table like I'd just finished a shift at a job I didn't know I'd been working for years. Nate stood by the sink, arms crossed. "What now?" I didn't answer. Not immediately. I just stared at my hands. There was something surreal about them. These were the hands that fixed her cabinet door when it came off the hinge, held her through panic attacks, paid for her classes when she wanted to switch careers. These were the hands that signed a marriage certificate. These hands had been loyal even when she wasn't. And she had a mattress on a storage unit floor. She had a whole backup version of herself waiting for the day she'd vanish from mine. My phone buzzed again. Voicemail. I played it on speaker. "You're really going to act like this? After everything we've been through? You humiliated me last night. You think I don't have people talking about it today? You crossed a line. You want to end things, fine. But don't think you can turn this around on me like I'm some villain. You've been emotionally unavailable for years." I hit pause. I couldn't listen to the rest. Emotionally unavailable. That was the narrative now. That's what she was going to run with. Nate looked at me. "She's setting up her version of the story." "She already started," I said. "And she's been doing it for months." That's when I remembered something else. 2 months ago, we had dinner with her sister and her husband. At one point, her sister asked how things were between us. I remember looking at her, smiling, saying we were good. Normal. Stable. But she said nothing. Just gave this weird, crooked smile and changed the subject. At the time, I thought she was being modest. Now I realize she was laying groundwork. dropping the idea that things were off. Planting seeds so when this blew up, she could harvest sympathy. She hadn't just planned the exit. She'd narrated it. I grabbed my laptop, opened our shared cloud storage. She never used it much, but I had set it up years ago, and some of her photos still auto-uploaded. I needed to see something. I didn't know what, just something real to anchor all this in. There were folders from vacations, old birthdays, a few selfies. Then, buried in a subfolder labeled Work Docs, I found a strange cluster of images from the last 3 months. Pictures of dinner plates I didn't recognize. Wine glasses I never touched. We didn't talk on the drive back. Nate kept his hands on the wheel, eyes straight ahead like if he looked at me too long, I'd fall apart. Maybe he was right. I wasn't ready to hear anything. Not questions. Not sympathy. Not the usual "you deserve better" lines people say when they don't know what else to offer. When we got to his place, I just sat on the couch again, lights off, phone face down on the table. I couldn't look at it anymore. Her name lit up the screen every hour like clockwork. It was like she was trying to remind me I still belonged to her. That even after that, she still thought I might fall back in line if she pulled the right emotional string. But something in me had broken in that storage unit. Something essential. She hadn't just lied, she'd engineered a life outside of me with the same efficiency she used to plan our vacations. The woman who color-coded our closet, who set reminders for everything, had also put the same energy into hiding a whole alternative version of herself. And I saw it now, not just the infidelity, not just the disrespect, but the deliberate, strategic unraveling of what we'd built. Brick by brick, behind my back, while smiling to my face. At 10:24 p.m., I picked up my phone and finally texted her back. Just one sentence: "We need to talk tomorrow." Daylight. No lies. She responded in less than a minute. "You're being dramatic. This doesn't need to be a thing. Can we just talk like adults?" I didn't reply. The next morning, I told her to meet me at the cafe 2 blocks from our place. Neutral ground. Somewhere public enough to keep things civil, but quiet enough for her to hear me. She showed up late. Of course. Wearing a turtleneck and sunglasses like she was the one hiding from the world. She sat down across from me, didn't even say hello. Just sipped water and looked bored. I placed her phone on the table. She glanced at it, then at me. "What's this?" I backed up everything. "Messages. Photos. GPS data. If I wanted to burn your entire world down, I could do it before lunch." She blinked once. The sunglasses came off. "You're threatening me?" "No," I said calmly. "I'm telling you what I chose not to do." She exhaled and leaned back like this was a chore. "You think this makes you powerful? This tantrum?" I leaned in, lowering my voice. "No, what makes me powerful is the fact that I'm still here. Still sane. Still capable of seeing you for what you are and choosing not to destroy you even though you handed me every weapon." Her expression cracked for just a second. Then came the smirk. "You always did love pretending to be noble." I laughed quietly. "And you always thought no one would see through you." Then I dropped the real hammer. I found the storage unit. The color drained from her face. Just for a moment. Then came the denial reflex. "I don't know what you think you saw, but I saw everything. The mattress. The charger. The picture. You made a life there, didn't you? Little hideaway. A place where you didn't have to be married. Where you could be the star of your own show without the boring husband in the audience." She said nothing. Her jaw clenched. I knew that face. It meant she had no script for this part. "You've been rehearsing the breakup for months," I said. All I did was walk in before opening night. The waiter came by and asked if we were ready to order. Neither of us answered. He walked away awkwardly. "I don't love you," she finally said. Not angry, not sad, just flat. "I haven't for a long time." "I know," I said. "You just didn't think I'd figure it out before you were finished gutting me." She picked up her purse and stood up like she was done. But I wasn't. "One last thing," I said. "The guy. The one from the party. The boss. Is it him?" She hesitated. Just long enough to confirm everything without saying a word. "Wow," I whispered. "You're really that cliché." Her eyes flared for a moment. "At least he listens." "Yeah," I said. "I bet he will. Right up until the day you do this exact thing to him." She walked out. I stayed, finished her untouched coffee, and finally felt the weight begin to lift. Not because I'd won, but because I was done playing her game. I went home the next day. Not to fix anything. Not to talk. I went for what was mine. The place was quiet when I stepped inside, and it hit me how fake the silence felt, like a pause between lies. The framed photos on the hallway wall, the neatly arranged books, the scented candles she always lit before guests came over, it was all part of the same script. A home built to impress, not to live in. Her car wasn't in the driveway. I had a window. That was all I needed. I moved fast. I grabbed the essentials, documents, my laptop, old journals, the box of letters from my parents. I took the paintings I'd bought before we met, the watch my grandfather gave me, things that still carried meaning untouched by her. Then I opened the closet. My side was half empty already. She'd been clearing space. For who, I didn't care anymore. But then I saw it, my suitcase. The one I hadn't used in years. Sitting by her side of the closet. Packed. I opened it. Inside. A few of my shirts, mismatched shoes, one pair of boxers. A sarcastic gesture, maybe. Or a prelude. Like she was planning to kick me out, but hadn't gotten around to it. The pettiness of it burned, but it also made things crystal clear. She hadn't just cheated on me. She'd evicted me from our marriage in phases. Emotionally, physically, now literally. She wanted me gone. So I gave her what she wanted. I left a note. No drama. Just one line. You can keep the lies. I'll take what's real. I dropped the key in the kitchen drawer and closed it gently. But just as I stepped outside, she pulled into the driveway. Our eyes met through the windshield. I waited. She turned off the engine, climbed out slowly, holding a grocery bag like this was still a Thursday and not the scorched earth aftermath of everything she blew up. You're taking the art, she said, nodding toward the back seat of my car. I paid for it, I said. She scoffed. You're seriously doing this like a breakup? Dividing stuff like kids? We're not kids, I said. That's the point. She stared at me, then gave a bitter little laugh. I thought you'd at least try. Maybe fight for it. I didn't expect you to run. Run? I repeated, almost amused. You packed my suitcase. You locked me out of your life and gave someone else my lines. You rehearsed a single life for months, and now you're shocked I'm not crawling back for a second audition. She stepped closer. Too close. Don't pretend you're innocent in this. I'm not, I said. I stayed too long. I forgave too easily. I ignored too much. That's my mistake. But you turned love into a con game. And you're mad I cashed out before you got the last dollar. Her mouth opened, but I wasn't listening anymore. The longer I stood there, the more I felt it. Freedom, peeling away like sunburned skin. Raw but real. She tried one last swing. You'll regret this, she said. You're walking away from 12 years like they're nothing. I looked her in the eyes. They weren't nothing, but you made them mean nothing. That's the difference. Then I got in the car, started the engine, and drove. She didn't follow. For once, she was the one left standing still. And I was finally the one moving on. I didn't cry. Not in the car. Not that night. Not even the next week. And it wasn't because I was strong. It was because I felt nothing, and that nothing scared me more than any breakdown could have. Grief I could have handled. Anger even easier. But numbness? That hollow silence inside me? That was the sound of 12 years collapsing into a void so absolute it swallowed every memory, good or bad, without a trace. I stayed at Nate's for another week. He never asked when I was leaving, just let me haunt his guest room like a ghost who hadn't figured out he was dead yet. I kept things quiet. No drinking binges, no revenge fantasies. Just long walks, long silences, and longer hours spent staring at walls and pretending I was thinking deep thoughts when really I wasn't thinking at all. Then the emails started. Not from her. From people I hadn't heard from in years. Friends, old co-workers, even her sister, people I'd grown distant from without noticing, now suddenly checking in, all with the same cautious tone. Hey, heard something weird, everything okay? At first, I ignored them. But then I got one from Greg, an old friend from college who'd ended up working in the same company as her, in a different department. We hadn't talked in months. Dude, I don't want to stir stuff, but your name came up in a really weird way at her office. Thought you should know. That message? That was the first time the numbness cracked. I called him immediately. Tell me everything, I said. He hesitated. It's bad, man. I can handle it. He exhaled. She's telling people you cheated. That you had a breakdown. That you were controlling, emotionally manipulative. That you stormed the office party because you were paranoid and jealous. She's rewriting everything. I didn't speak for a while. Greg filled the silence. I didn't believe it. That's why I'm calling. But some people? They bought it. She's playing victim real well. I thanked him. Hung up. Sat in the dark for a long time with my fists clenched, my jaw tight, my mind running loops. She wasn't just done with me. She was erasing me. Rebranding herself as the innocent party while painting me as the unstable husband she had to escape from. It was diabolical. Precise. Strategic. And worst of all, it was working. I didn't go scorched earth. That would have been easy. I didn't post screenshots or start calling her out on social media like some digital crusader. Instead, I did something quieter, smarter. I booked a session with a lawyer first, then a therapist, and then I started rebuilding, piece by piece. Because if she was going to turn the story of our marriage into a play with herself as the misunderstood heroine, then fine. Let her act. Let her wear the mask. But I wasn't going to be the villain in anyone's story, not even hers. And I wasn't going to let her turn my silence into an admission of guilt. The truth doesn't always roar. Sometimes it waits. And I was done waiting to speak it. She reached out again 3 weeks later. It was a Thursday, mid-morning. I was in the middle of sorting through a stack of legal documents, sipping coffee that had long gone cold, when her name appeared on my screen again. This time not a call, not a text, an email. Subject line, closure. The body was short, almost surgical in its lack of emotion. I think it would be good for us to talk one more time. No drama, just clarity. I don't like how things ended. I think we both deserve peace. Let me know. No apology. No accountability. Just a carefully worded olive branch dead and dried out before I even read it. I stared at it for a long time. Then I read it again. The wording kept echoing. I don't like how things ended. Not what I did. Not what I said. Just how it ended. Like the ending was the problem, not the betrayal that led to it. She still didn't get it. I replied with 2 words, public place. She chose a wine bar she used to like downtown, the kind with soft lighting and overpriced glasses that made her feel sophisticated. It was half empty when I arrived. She was already there, seated in the corner, legs crossed, phone face down beside her drink. She stood when she saw me like we were strangers meeting for a job interview. Her smile was polite, controlled, the same one she used at charity galas and client mixers. You look good, she said, as if that mattered now. Saturday, let's get to it. She sipped her wine and waited for me to speak first. I didn't. Eventually, she broke the silence. I've been thinking a lot, she said slowly, measured. About us. About how things spiraled. Spiraled? I raised an eyebrow. You mean how you detonated our marriage and then tried to blame me for standing in the rubble? She stiffened but didn't respond. She wasn't used to me being direct. That had always been my mistake. I'd played calm, rational, soft-spoken for years, thinking it was noble. But all it did was give her space to sharpen her knives. She tried again. I didn't reach out to rehash everything. I thought maybe we could put it behind us. Put what behind us? I asked. The part where you called me your roommate? The secret storage unit? The rewritten history you're feeding to your coworkers? She blinked. Just once. People were asking questions. I had to say something. You didn't have to lie. I told the version that made sense at the time. That line. She said it like it was reasonable, as if truth was just a flavor, and she picked the one that suited her palate. I leaned forward. You're not sorry, I said. You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry your narrative didn't hold. And now you want closure. Not for me, but so you can clean up the mess before your new life gets dirty. She looked away. You're angry. I get it. No, you don't. I said. You don't get what it means to be lied to with a straight face for months. You don't get what it feels like to sit across from someone you love and realize they're performing. That everything, every smile, every goodnight kiss, every "I'm just tired" excuse was scripted. She finally looked at me, and for the first time the mask slipped. A crack, a flicker of discomfort. I continued. I didn't come here to scream. I came here so that when you rewrite this part of the story too, at least I'll know I said what mattered. She tilted her head. And what's that? I stood up, tossed a 20 on the table, and met her eyes one last time. That I saw through you. Fully. Finally. And I still chose to walk away instead of burn it all down. She didn't follow. She didn't call. And as I stepped into the chill of the night air, I realized something I hadn't expected. She hadn't broken me. She had freed me. The peace didn't come all at once. Came in fragments. A full night of sleep without checking my phone. A morning coffee that actually tasted like coffee again. The absence of walking on eggshells. The quiet, not silence but actual quiet, where tension used to live. Felt strange at first. Like walking around in a too big jacket. You're warm, technically, but you don't know if it fits you yet. I'd been in survival mode for so long that stillness felt alien. I kept to myself. Finished splitting accounts. Handed my attorney everything he needed. It was clinical, like closing a business. A dissolving of assets. A deletion of promises. She didn't fight the paperwork. No calls. No, I miss you. No bargaining. Which told me everything I still needed to know. She hadn't come to that last meeting for closure. She came to check my temperature. To see if there was any heat left to manipulate. And when she found none, she vanished again. But the world kept spinning. I went back to the gym. Cut my hair shorter. Took long drives without destinations. I even picked up painting again, something I hadn't touched in almost a decade because, in her words, it's messy and pointless unless you're good at it. Funny how the little things she'd poisoned now tasted fresh again. And just when I thought it was all behind me, life threw one more card on the table. It came from an unexpected corner, her new boyfriend. Yeah, him. The guy from the office. Mr. Velvet Blazer. The one who stood next to her at the party like he'd won a prize he didn't realize was ticking. He messaged me on LinkedIn of all places. The subject line read, "Man to man." I opened it. "Hey, I know this is weird. I think we need to talk. She told me a lot about you, and I'm starting to see some things that don't line up. I don't want drama, just clarity. Coffee?" I sat back and laughed. Not because it was funny, but because of the irony. The same man who watched me get humiliated that night was now starting to see the strings wrapped around his own neck. I didn't respond. Not right away. I thought about it for 2 days. Then I met him. Not out of spite. Not out of curiosity. But because I needed to look him in the eye and see something for myself. We met at a neutral coffee shop. Midday, no alcohol, nothing dramatic. He looked exhausted. Older than I remembered. As like he hadn't slept well in a while. We shook hands. Sat down. He got to the point fast. "I think she's lying to me." I said nothing. He kept going. "She says you were abusive, controlling, that you cheated, that you broke down in public and embarrassed her at work because she was trying to move on. She told you that?" He nodded. "And when did you stop believing her?" He looked me dead in the eye. "When I found the second phone." So she hadn't retired her old tricks, just recycled them. He kept talking. "I've never been in something like this. 1 week it's passion, the next she disappears for a night. Then she comes back crying or charming. Gaslighting. I didn't even know what that was until recently." I took a slow sip of my coffee. "You're not crazy." He looked relieved. Like I'd said the words he hadn't let himself believe yet. "I feel like I'm in a movie where she's always one scene ahead of me." "You are," I said. "I was in that same movie. Only difference is, I waited 12 years to leave the theater." He leaned back. "So what do I do?" "You leave before she decides you're boring, too." He nodded slowly, jaw tight. Thanks. I guess I needed to hear it from someone who made it out. I stood up, tossed my empty cup, looked at him one last time. She'll call it a betrayal, I said. When you walk, she'll say you abandoned her, that you were scared, weak, selfish. I stepped outside, felt the cold breeze again. But don't worry, I muttered to myself as I walked off. She's got that speech memorized. I didn't expect the last chapter to feel like a beginning. After everything. After the humiliation, the betrayal, the unraveling, the twisted emails, the storage unit, the LinkedIn message from her replacement. I thought the final page would end with some cinematic punctuation. Clean break. One last door slammed. But real life doesn't close like a novel. It drifts. It fades. And if you're lucky, it quietly resets. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday. No drama. No courtroom fireworks. Just signatures and silence. She didn't show up. Her lawyer handled it. I stepped out of that building lighter. Not because I'd won anything, but because I'd lost everything false. And what stayed, what was left behind, was mine. My mind. My peace. My name. My truth. I didn't tell anyone right away. Not even Nate. I just went home to the apartment I'd been renting and sat by the window for 2 hours, watching the light change on the floor, hearing the city hum outside. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't want to go back to what was. I started writing again, painting, saying no more often, letting things be messy. I burned the scented candles she hated, got inked, traveled to a small mountain town I always wanted to visit but never did because she said it wasn't worth the Instagram photos. Funny thing is, I didn't take any photos there. Just looked. Just breathed. Nate visited me the night after everything was official. Brought beers, didn't say anything until we were 3 in. You look different. I feel different. He nodded. You're finally out of her gravity. And that stuck with me. Out of her gravity. Because that's exactly what she was, a force. Pulling, distorting, keeping people orbiting around the version of her she needed them to see. And the second they stopped spinning, she replaced them. I used to think I was the only one she did it to. But that wasn't the point anymore. The point was, I was done spinning. Weeks passed. Then a month. Then 2. No more messages from her. No surprise visits. No drunk apologies at midnight. Just absence. And not the painful kind. The useful kind. The kind that clears space. One afternoon, I passed by her office building while walking downtown. It hit me out of nowhere. I stopped, looked up at the 27th floor, the scene of the party, the betrayal, the freezing smile. And I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel anything at all. Just the passing recognition of a place I used to be part of. Like walking past your old school. Or the house you grew up in. You remember the shape of it. But the walls don't know your name anymore. Before I moved on from that sidewalk, I opened my phone, deleted the last thing left of her, a photo buried in the cloud. Us. Smiling. A summer festival. She had a flower crown on. I had a dumb grin. I looked at it one last time. Then hit delete. Not for revenge. Not to forget. But because the version of me in that photo was gone. And the man I was now? He wouldn't recognize her. And she wouldn't know what to do with him. If you're reading this because you're going through it too, let me say this, they won't always apologize. You won't always get answers. And closure? It's not something they give you. It's something you take back. So take it. And walk. Even if your legs shake. Even if your voice cracks. Even if every part of you still wants to turn around. Walk anyway. And eventually, you'll realize the real betrayal wasn't losing them. It was losing yourself trying to keep them. Never again.